creation of a computer center for training at a cost as low as few lakhs of rupees was a great surprise to all concerned, from the head office to college. No one expected that, as the cost of creation of computer center in those days used to be few millions of rupees, and when the cost of civil work itself used to be over 5 million. Background of the case. It was in the year 1984. Use of computers was limited to very large business organizations and leading academic institutions only. Typically, they had mainframe computers, while use of mini computers had also started. The Indian Banks Association had entered into agreement with various staff unions in banks for introducing computers in the bank. The head office had sent a letter to the principal of the bank's Apex Staff College asking him to develop and suggest the action plan that the college proposes for computer training of the officers and others to be able to use computers when the bank introduced the same. The principal asked Mr. Vaishampayan to draft a reply to the letter, as no one else in the college had any idea of computers. The principal had asked Mr. Vaishampayan to prepare the reply, as the latter had worked in a large engineering company before joining the bank's staff college, where he had developed computer programs, that is software, for the commercial department, and written a case study which was published in a leading management journal of the country. Mr. Vaishampayan had been appointed in the Apex College of the bank along with 6 others as senior faculty members with non-banking background to bring fresh ideas in the bank and work like a change agent to elevate the staff college from a college for training probationary officers to an Apex College for executive officers, typically with 15 to 20 years experience or more. He had started designing and conducting several new programs like organization and methods, management information system, managing organization change, which no other faculty member was doing. The bank ranked number 2 among the commercial banks, nationalized in 1969. There were close to 100 executives as chief manager and regional manager level, and about 300 at senior manager level. Mr. Vaishampayan had also started a novel 2 weeks long general management program for the executives for the first time in the banks. The design included a 3-hour module on computer appreciation, for which the previous principal had reprimanded him, saying, "How dare you use the word computers in our bank?" which was not unexpected in those days, in view of principal's background of legal, personal management, and industrial relation fields in which he had spent most of his life. However, Mr. Vaishampayan was upset over the same, as instead of appreciation, he had been reprimanded. Mr. Vaishampayan, with his background of electrical and mechanical engineering, cost counting, and management, was a man with varied interest, always inquisitive and curious to do things in new ways, if not doing new things. One day he entered a room with the college electrician and asked why there were 2 long cemented platforms with machine only on one. The electrician explained that the machine is compressor for centralized air conditioning, which could be expanded as the need arose in future by putting another compressor. Asked as to how much that would cost, the enlightened electrician replied that it may cost about Rs. 2 lakhs. Likewise, one day he entered in another room in the basement, curious about where the sweeper goes and what does he do in it, only to notice that there was a big hall of about 30 feet by 60 feet being used by sweeper for putting waste paper, broken furniture, etc. The rental in the area, which was posh area of the town, an A-class city of India, was about rupees 10 per square feet. This huge area, costing about rupees 18,000 a month, which is 4 times the salary of the principal, is being used for storing garbage, Mr. Vaishampayan wondered. They reply. Initially, Mr. Vaishampayan tried to wriggle out as he was too cut up and feeling peeved on the issue of computerization, especially because the letter had come from the personal department, which was headed by the previous principal who had reprimanded him just a year ago for use of the word computers in the executive training program. However, he agreed to draft a reply as he could not refuse because the new principal was a nice person who never maltreated him and supported his initiatives like research. The proposal. In the reply, Mr. Vaishampayan developed an elaborate plan for computer training, which was partly due to vengeance and partly an outcome of all he could think of. The proposal in brief contained 3 things. Number 1, hardware maintenance training. For those who had to man the various computer centers in the bank, which were likely to be created at regional and zonal offices as well as the head office. Training was to be given by computer suppliers and maintenance agencies. 2, software development training. For training those who would be engaged in the development of software for various applications in the bank. Training should be given by companies like TCS and academic institutions like IITs and IIMs. 3, user-oriented training. A, for executives and officers in zonal office, regional offices where the computers would be installed to help them familiarize with computer use so that they can switch over and start using computers for quality decisions at high speed. All the executives in the regional and zonal offices and the departments at head office and 2 officers reporting to each one of them will be given this training. B, 1 or 2 officers and staff of every branch who send information to regional and higher officers periodically on regular and ad hoc basis. If they were not familiarized, they may commit mistakes in sending information in correct formats so that there is no mistake and the data could be processed properly. For 3 above, the proposal suggested half-a-day training module to be conducted by faculty members at the 12 regional training centers of the bank who will be given training and also necessary kit for the purpose by the Apex College. The suggestion 3A above was meant for those 1,200 people who had to be given 3 days hands-on training to enable them have confidence of touching and using computer in their offices. One leading management institution was conducting a 3-day program for computer appreciation, charging rupees 3,000 per participant. This meant that to get 1,200 executives and officers trained, it would cost the bank about rupees 3.5 million. Further, the institute may not conduct more than 1 or 2 programs per year, training about 20 persons or so. Sponsored training programs were not common those days in leading management institutes. Thus, training close to 1,200 people could take 7 to 10 years. There were no other avenues to get all the persons trained. The proposal therefore suggested creation of a 20-seater computer training center for training at the Apex College at the cost of about Rs 6 lakhs. 2 or 3 faculty members of the college would be trained for the purpose. Mr. Vaishampayan offered to start the same. One more faculty member of the college also offered to join the movement. Response of the head office. The head office was quite impressed with the overall plan, but had reservations on 2 counts. 1, the cost was underestimated, which in its view would not be less than Rs 10 million, and this will throw the viability out in the winds. It therefore asked to explain. Mr. Vaishampayan also got adamant and replied to head office that the cost calculations were right. The head office asked how, without including any cost of civil and electrical work, the computer center would be created. Mr. Vaishampayan replied that he was prepared to share all the details provided the head office agreed for the creation of the center, at least in principle. After a few months, the head office indicated its consent and deputed 2 officers to get details of how the center would be created. Mr. Vaishampayan gave all the finer points how the computer center would be created in the library without any significant expenditure beyond the cost of computers, that is 10 PCXTs, which had entered the Indian market. The library will be shifted to the large unused hall in the basement, which was bigger than the library, almost twice, with AC, ducting work and addition of second compressor in the electrical room. The librarian was persuaded by the administrative staff, who were experiencing discomfort due to poor air conditioning. Clearance by the head office. The head office people were pleasantly surprised to see the low-cost solution using extra space available that existed but no use contemplated. Initially, it was thought to be used as a parking area, but due to certain logistic issues, it could not happen. However, since the foundation and plinth work for column structure was already done, the area was covered and the room got created. The head office immediately cleared the proposal, and the first computer center for training in the banking industry was created. Mr. Vaishampayan was subsequently included in the head office committee for computation of the bank. After a few years, the college opened the training center for training of officers of other banks and started generating some revenue also. Some faculty members were of the opinion that Mr. Vaishampayan has only tricked the head office people to his way of thinking to get the center created. Faculty members teaching personal management were opposed to it as it involved labor issues, although they started using the facilities for typing work first once the system stabilized and some secretary staff learned the use of it. But Vaishampayan was now thinking whether creation of the computer center could throw up some good business opportunities.